Maybe you thought we were going to talk about something else today. We're not. We're still going to talk about how Georgia beat Texas because Georgia beat Texas, won the SEC today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on? Welcome to Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. He is Daniel. I am Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Thanks for the everydayers that are here every single day that we're covering the Bulldogs, which just in is every day, and the loyal third segment listeners that listen all the way to the end. Today, we are talking about that Texas beatdown. Yes, Matthew McConaughey's jacket, as well as a porcelain figurine of one Lawson Lucky, are prominently displayed everywhere in Texas, as it should be. That leather jacket has been burnt. It's real sad.
You'd like to think so.
I know I burned some things in effigy to Texas, and not really in the kind way. Today, we're talking about three things. This just in, we beat down Texas. Some things that we saw from this. Two, we got them playoff rankings that happened this morning, or Sunday morning, that we're talking about a little bit more because this just in, Georgia has the easiest path to the national championship of any contender, hands down. And so we'll be talking about that. And then lastly, what this means for the rest of the bracket. But Daniel, let's talk about this Texas game in the SEC championship a little bit more.
Thanks to FanDuel, by the way, for bringing us today's episode. FanDuel.com. You make every moment more over there. We love them. We'll talk to you more about them in a second. Georgia won the game. And you know, we gave out a lot of flowers on the show, and as we absolutely should. Do want to say here on a Monday, a lot of things being circulated about Carson Beck. Nothing 1,000% definitive yet. Let's just say at this moment, it does not feel good for Carson Beck to be coming back.
Hearing some people talking about Tommy John surgery needed, the ULC ligament in the elbow. Hearing people talk about medical professionals.
That's in the elbow, Clint. Just so you know where that is.
But he had ice.
That's why he had ice around his elbow, because that's a procedure that is the elbow.
Well, I'm an idiot, and so I didn't know that.
Some are, some aren't, but you're not. It does not look great, is the prognosis. And I say all that to say we're going to talk a lot about Gunnar Stockton and this team moving forward if Gunnar Stockton is indeed at the helm. We're not going to say that, we're going to be fine, everything's good, Gunnar Stockton was the best quarterback anyway, because hopefully not for the last time this season, let's just settle into the fact that Carson Beck has had a disappointing season by his own standards, by everyone's account. But Carson Beck has led this team to 11-2, SEC champion, number 2 overall seed, number 2 overall ranking in the college football playoff rankings, number 2 overall seed in the college football playoff bracket. Carson Beck did that. Now, he didn't perform as well as he could have in every moment. I think you'll find that that's going to be the case with every quarterback that Georgia has moving forward. But kudos to Carson Beck for the way that he led this team. Kudos to Carson Beck from what we saw from him on the sidelines. Listen to me. I promise you, Carson Beck is not going to distance himself from this team and work on his draft stock. That's not what you're going to see out of Carson Beck if, in fact, he is shut down for the rest of the season. I'll just tell you this right now. Carson Beck is connected to this team. He is connected to these guys. He's going to be in Gunnar Stockton's ear every step of the way. And you would expect nothing less from a Kirby Smart coach team.
Kirby Smart, by the way, gives us a couple nuggets post-game, and Tate Ratledge as well as an interview. No one knew that Carson Beck was coming back in the game. And this is how you know that he is connected. Carson Beck ain't going nowhere. This team loves him. You should love him. He up and down season, like Daniel said, but he's going to be there helping out this entire time, like every other dog has been, because culture matters. Don't know if you understand this.
Sure does.
college football playoff hopeful teams.
Well, hope will only last you so long, Clint.
Hope only goes so
I
long.
hope to play in the NBA one day. Let me put a pin in that. That's over. It's finished.
That's done. I hope Alabama gets back to Nick Saban-esque heights.
Same thing. I just said. It's just the same thing. Yeah.
It's the same. Because we actually have a coach. You don't. He's going to be connected to this team. He's not going to transfer because he's going to go to the draft. But we didn't know he was coming back in the game. Tate Ratledge didn't know he was coming back in the game. No one thought that he was coming back in the game except Carson Beck said, I can hold a football. I can hand it off. Let me help this team. And he did help this team again.
Yeah. Kudos to Carson Beck. That play is going to mean a lot to the Georgia football program for a long time. You could see the emotion on Kirby Smart's face talking about Trevor Etienne. By the way, a guy that transferred from Florida.
Oh, no.
And said, this is why you come to Georgia, to compete for SEC championships. See, Clint, he was at an SEC school before this. And then he went to a winner. He wanted to win. You play to win the game. Florida catching strays in Georgia's SEC championship postgame press conference is something that I always enjoy. It's a play that's going to mean a lot, and one of the key reasons for that is Carson Beck. I also want to talk about, before segment 2, I want to get into somebody that I'm concerned about. Okay. A player on this team that I did not particularly care for what I saw on Saturday from.
Okay.
And that brings me concern. Before we get to that, I think Kirby Smart dropped a bomb in his post-game press conference.
It doesn't seem like a bomb, but let me tell you, this has ripple effects that are massive.
And I just feel like we need to talk about it. He was asked about that final play that you just mentioned. And he said, well, we didn't really know. We knew that if the penalty was overturned, we knew that, an earlier in the season this had happened, and we had been prepped for it. And so we were thinking about it. If he had to come out of the game, we knew we'd be able to get it done. And then he said, and they told me on the headset that Carson could go, that Carson was going to be good, that he could go in, that he could hand the ball off. So we knew they told me on the headset that Carson was good to go. So we knew that if Gunner had to come out for a play, that we'd be good there. We were going to put Puglisi in, and we felt great about that. But they said Carson was going to be good to go. And so we
hold on.
He just
Carson Beck's good to go.
He just skated right by it, Clint.
But we didn't. Let me tell you this. Carson's good to go.
Listening.
That's great. Glad he was good to go.
Sure.
But you said, hold on, Chris. Who was it next up in that pecking order? It went Carson Beck, and then it went Gunner Stockton, and then it went Puglisi.
Ryan Puglisi, longtime friend of the show, by the way. Ryan Puglisi. Yeah, he's a third string quarterback on this team, Clint.
Yeah.
Let me amend that statement.
Okay, go ahead.
He's now the backup quarterback on your Georgia football team. We are one play away, God forbid, from Ryan Puglisi being your starting quarterback for the University of Georgia football team. I'm just going off what the head man Kirby Smart said was going to be the next quarterback into the game. I'll tell you, it's interesting, if nothing else. It's interesting that Jaden Rashada, who seems to find his way on camera on the sidelines a lot, it's interesting that he is not the guy that was reaching for a helmet in that situation. It's interesting because Ryan Puglisi, a freshman, just kind of been biding his time all year. You kind of feel like buried on the depth chart. You got more quarterbacks coming in, Montgomery coming in. This guy seems to be just trying to slot himself right in there as the next in line. Something that we've said all along, this guy was no Dylan Raiola insurance policy. This is the guy that was here, and he was ready to get after it from day one. We had him on this show, and
you could tell
this kid's got it.
You can tell this. Let me repeat. If you leave Georgia and you choose not to play for Kirby Smart, here's the reason. I will tell you, just skip over the paywalls. Skip over everything.
Skip them. It's
because you don't like competition, one.
Yeah.
Or you tried competition and other people beat you out, two. Reasons. That's it. We're going to come back after this. Dan's going to let you know a player he's concerned about. I'm going to let you know big picture of the college football playoff. But first, these. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now you can save an unforgettable gifts and 50% off site-wide at the world famous omahasteaks.com.
Plus, too. I mean, you can order from anywhere in the world, I assume, Clint.
It's on the internet. Yeah. Score an extra $30 off promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more. Save 50% site-wide for a limited time offer. omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Daniel, let's get to a couple of big narratives for the playoff. Yeah, and a player that concerns you, and I'll give you a player that concerns me. Maybe they're the same person.
They might
be.
Maybe
they're not.
Okay.
I have a feeling they might be. Let's go big picture. Hey, Bama, you out. Losers. You're done. You're out.
3 times you were losers. Once to Vandy. Once 24-3 to Oklahoma.
Okay.
Stop me when I get to the most embarrassing one, Clint, because these are questionable at best losses. Here's the thing: if you're gonna whine about out of conference scheduling, why would we schedule these tough games? This is all just regurgitating the Herb Street Saban narrative that you're being fed on ESPN.
Yep.
But it wasn't scheduling FSU in the non-conference that got you sitting at home for the college football playoff. It was because you lost to Vandy.
I want to ask you really quick, Bama fan that's here, because
Vandy.
Your only hope of having playoff feeling is coming on here and hating us in the comments. That's the closest you get to the playoff. Let me ask you who your non-conference games are that you would otherwise not schedule because
there's no incentive to go out and schedule anybody in the non-conference.
If I may. Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky.
What,
Daniel?
So you're saying playing Wisconsin was you scheduling tough opponents? Is that what you're saying?
What about South Florida, 6th in the American? The 6th best team in the American. What about
they almost beat Bama last year, so that's a good program.
What about Wisconsin, who is a joke of a program? Okay.
You went out and scheduled Wisconsin.
Mercer.
Okay, so you're already doing that then.
And
you still went 9-3 because Greg Sankey couldn't protect you from big bad Vanderbilt, and you got Oklahoma instead of Texas, and you got your butt kicked. I don't know. Maybe SMU doesn't deserve to be in the playoff.
I don't know.
Maybe there'll be SEC fans in the comments telling me strength of schedule.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe don't lose to Vandy.
Don't take a giant L to Oklahoma.
It's just Mark Richt syndrome over here at Alabama, and you hate to see it for a program like Alabama. Mark Richt syndrome.
Okay, let's talk.
Maybe if you just win the games, you'll be fine. Georgia, somebody tried to tell you.
Okay, hold on.
That winning the SEC championship game was the most important thing Georgia could do for their entire season.
Oh no!
Now, little did we know that Georgia was going to need 24 days to break in a new quarterback, which is the most advantageous position you could possibly find yourself in. That's like spring practice. You understand? Georgia has spring practice between now and when they have to play football again for a new quarterback to get acclimated to all the first team reps.
is what normally happens when a new season begins and roster turnover takes place. We have that ability right now because we won the SEC in a bye week.
Today, we're doing it today.
Right now. Currently, that's happening.
Right now, Mike Bobo is watching film with Gunnar Stockton. So, not only did we get that advantage from the bye, but Clint, I tried to tell you how this schedule was going to break. You could see the handwriting on the wall for days.
You could.
Let me name the 5 teams that stand between your Georgia Bulldogs and a 1-game season for the national championship against somebody. There are only 5 teams between us and one game for a national champ. Possible. We'll only have to play 2 of them, but these are the only options.
This is the field. This is
Greg Sankey's not allowed to schedule somebody more difficult than this as much as he might want to.
He wants to, but he can't.
And by the way, Greg Sankey, catch another stray from Kirby. I love it so much.
Stand there and take it.
Take it. Just like Matthew McConaughey did. Notre Dame, Clint.
Okay.
Indiana.
No. Okay.
It's one of those 2 teams first.
Great. Okay.
The pride of the Hoosier State is up first. Either Notre Dame or Indiana. Then after that, we will face either Penn State, SMU, the team that got in instead of Alabama. Could have been you, Alabama, right there in that spot. Could have had your shot at the king, but you don't. You don't have it. Or Boise State, Clint. Boise, Penn State, SMU, Notre Dame, Indiana. Do you know who's not on Georgia's half of the bracket? Tennessee, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Clemson. Like, everyone is on that other side, and they'll all just get to battle it out for a chance to face Georgia. This is the single most advantageous, and I'm not telling you Georgia's definitely going to run the table, play for the national championship. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm saying is, you could not have asked for a better path. And it comes all because Georgia won this game, because Gunnar Stockton put his body on the line in overtime, because Trevor Etienne punched it into the end zone, because Chaz Chambliss is the greatest fullback in the history of football.
Hey, Chaz, just to let you know, all the bad things this podcast said about you solely came from Daniel and no one else.
It was all executive producer, intern, Michael Smith. That's who said all of it. Check out that Brothers Know Best pod, and you can find him there in the comments. Okay. Georgia's got the road, Clint. I mean, look at this. I mean, we're going to talk about it, obviously, over the next few weeks.
I'm looking at it right now.
Look at this path. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Okay. Daniel, who are you concerned about? Tease the people. We're going to come back because this is important because I want to talk about some other things as we look at the path you just laid out. I'm going to come back in third segment, talk about the game against Texas, some insights from the game that you should be aware of compared to where we left off against Georgia Tech and UMass. Who was the person, tease the people? Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That concerns you, Daniel.
Well, he's a defensive player, and he's a veteran leader on the defense. And I just think it's time. It needs to be said, at least out loud on this podcast. A lot of it's being said in the comment section. It's being said on the live shows. It's being said by all of you. Malachi Starks he doesn't have it. He's not it. He's the third best safety on this team. And it's by a considerable margin now.
It's concerning how much he is unable to break down and tackle.
Or stick to and cover. The kid in coverage is often lost. Not sometimes lost.
Often
lost in coverage. That's not good. Clint, it's not. We got torched. And a lot of it was Malachi Starks. Not all of it. Certainly not all of it.
No.
But
Like they were picking
sizable
on
percentage.
Daniel Harris. You could tell that the entire game. They were targeting him early, often, and continually throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the big busted plays came over the middle of the field. They were that third down catches that they had against him were just like tip your cap, 50-50 ball, centimeters away. Just like, okay, sure, I understand. That's how football goes sometimes. Yeah. But he clawed back and he was fine. Malachi Starks was out of position so many daggum times. Not just this
late.
game.
He's late, Clint.
All the time. Dan Jackson, again. Dan Jackson, best safety we have by a country mile.
It's concerning.
It should.
That's all I'm trying to say. I'm concerned about it.
But well, I'm going to give you hope because we're going to come back in third segment. Tell you the teams we played, the teams we were looking at playing, and something that we said Texas shouldn't do to try to beat Georgia, and they tried to, and they couldn't do it, and that should give you hope going forward. But first, these. Daniel, it's our people over at FanDuel. We know them well, don't we, Daniel?
I know them well. I have a fantastic relationship with them. The accounts they're doing well. Okay, the Arizona State to make the playoff bet that I made about 6 weeks ago, that was fine. It came home. The Georgia money line for this game,
we told you,
was great. The little parlay, Clint, I took all four Power 4 champion parlay and just said, what if I just take Clemson, Georgia, Oregon, and Arizona State all on the money line? And that paid handsomely, all on FanDuel.com. You could do all those things. If you're a fan of the NFL, if you're a fan of the NBA, if you're a fan of bowl season, the most wonderful time of the year, there's going to be plenty of opportunity. College basketball, you can bet on them Dogs here in a couple of days, taking on Grand Canyon. All at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more. The official sportsbook partner of Locked On Bulldogs podcast. You go there right now, you make a $5 wager. You win that $5 wager. We told you to bet it on the Georgia money line in this game. You can't do that anymore. You have to pick something else. You make a $5 wager. You win a $5 wager. You get $150 in bonus bets right into your account. FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook partner of Locked On Podcast Network, where you can make every moment more. FanDuel.com.
Daniel,
talk to the people.
Malachi Starks should concern you because in pass coverage, there's some gaping holes in the secondary and they come on the back end, and he needs to get right. 3 weeks to begin that preparation. I think he's going to turn a corner. Now, the biggest concern to me, coverage being late and that sort of thing, it is concerning. There's miscommunication. I think it's clear as day when certain linebackers, and there's been a mix-up, Smile Mondon coming back in. It's not a mix-up just because he's in. I think inconsistency at the linebacker group, you could see, causes some miscommunication. And it's clear to me that when Malachi is a little uncertain, there's trepidation in his step. He doesn't get there. I think that gets cleaned up next couple weeks. What's more concerning to me is when he gets to ball. He's quick there. Speed is not his problem in the game, y'all. He can track somebody down.
Sure.
When he gets there, that punt coverage, Daniel, horrible, atrocious. Breaking down and trying to tackle a ball carrier in open field, which he has to do quite often, playing safety. Abysmal. I'm more concerned with that. Dan Jackson, KJ Bolden do not have that concern. When they come downhill, you're going to feel them, and they're going to make their presence known. Okay. But I'm going to tell you something that was really interesting about the SEC championship game coming off of UMass and Georgia Tech and concerns we had, and Georgia rose to the challenge. And I'm going to tell you all the teams that are standing in our way on the path to the national championship. And I'm going to start with just this fact. I'm going to ask you, Daniel, after giving up all them yards to UMass running back, to Georgia Tech three-headed monster running, just everybody.
Everybody. Brent Key came in there, ran an off-tackle play. I don't know if you saw it, but he was in there.
And he said, I dare you to flag me. And the ref said, no, we're
good.
I don't want to mess with you. And they shouldn't have messed with him.
No, steroid rage is real.
It's real.
You want to get involved in that. It's a Ron Zook situation you've got there.
You just aged yourself so bad.
Hey, look, real ones know.
They know.
Real ones know. You make fun of Florida anytime you can, and anytime I can bring up Ron Zook's name, I'm going to do it.
It's embarrassing that he was there. The quote best running back in the SEC, as some people claimed to me, Wisner, Daniel, much improved. I will give him one of the most improved running backs.
Yeah,
I was told one of the best running backs in the SEC.
Best offensive line in the SEC.
Best offensive line in the SEC, Daniel. That's what I was told as well.
Sure.
Wisner averaged 2.7 yards and 51 yards on 19 carries and no touchdowns in the SEC championship game with the best offensive line and the best running back in the SEC against what I was told was a defense that couldn't stop anything running through the belly of their defense, Daniel. Now I ask you, how impressive was that run defense that we had in this game at the time that it was? How impressive are those stats with Wisner? 2.7 yards per attempt. Daniel?
You go back and you rewatch it, Clint, and it's what the big fellas did up front that impresses me the most. It wasn't necessarily the linebacker play, although I thought the linebacker play was good.
Yeah.
It was what the big bodies did. It was what Brinson did. It was what Stackhouse did. It was what McLeod did. I thought those guys rotating through there. We know Kristen Miller was down, and so that we presumed that was going to be a significant loss. I thought those guys really stepped up. I know there's other names that rotated through there. We saw a lot of really productive things out of those guys. We saw a lot of really productive things out of guys like Michael Williams in the run game. We saw a lot of really productive things out of Chaz Chambliss in the run game, which is par for the course for that guy. But it was a really impressive performance by this Georgia defensive front against the run in an area that, we said it. We said it yesterday. This Georgia team has been soft. They were not soft in this game. No. And I'll tell you, you look at some of the teams that Georgia might go up against, and I'm particularly thinking about this Notre Dame team.
There it is.
If Georgia plays Notre Dame now, Riley Leonard will still make me nervous in that game because Riley Leonard, I think, is like a bigger Haynes King.
Yes.
And if that doesn't make you nervous, if me saying bigger Haynes King, then I don't know. You have a case of amnesia that I am jealous of because that should make you very nervous.
Yeah.
But Georgia's now, and the irony is, Clint, the hilarity is that Steve Sarkisian, the big fat idiot,
yep,
he has one of those.
Yep.
He has one.
His name's Arch Manning. He's probably the best of them all.
And he blatantly refused to use him. Instead, he was busy snapping the ball between his legs on a trick play to gain 1 yard.
Oh, no.
Okay. So Sark is an idiot.
Yeah.
Georgia wasn't tested fully against a mobile quarterback, but Texas was not able to move the ball at all on the ground. They became one-dimensional, and if you make Quinn Ewers one-dimensional, he's not it.
Okay.
Because you can tee off on him and force him into questionable throws, of which he made multiple, and Georgia feasted.
Now, to your point, Daniel, you said the teams leading up to the national championship for us.
Yeah.
Indiana, Notre Dame, first out of the bracket. Boise State, third up out of that, and then a couple teams. Okay. Indiana Hoosiers averaging rushing yards per game, 173 per game. You said Riley Leonard, and people don't understand this. 721 yards. He's the second leading rusher on their team, and he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. Love is averaging 7.1 yards per carry on 949 yards this season. Notre Dame can run the ball. Indiana can run the ball.
Yeah. Penn State can run the ball.
Okay, here we go.
Boise has the best running back in college football. So, best season for a running back in the history of college football.
But if you look at what Georgia did in the SEC championship game, Daniel,
there's hope.
And you look at the best offensive line and Wisner and a team that said, let's try to run it at them and take little pot shots. They tried to Ole Miss game plan early on, went away from it, didn't do anything with Quinn Ewers after the fact. I'm just telling you, this defensive line, 15 TFLs and 6 sacks. Renaissance game.
You couldn't do it again though. If you played him a third time, you'd never do it again. A third time.
I'm just telling you, Georgia
fool
fans,
me once.
Look, I know we got a lot of running teams up, but y'all, we showed up on the biggest stage, and I think we're gonna do it again. He is Daniel. I'm Clint. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day, every day this week and next, and leading up to the to the quarterfinals.
We're not going anywhere, y'all. We got nothing else to do. What else are we going to do? I mean, we're in the college football playoff. Isn't your team Alabama?
Nope, they're not.
No, they're not. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.